Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents His To Cherish by Sierra Cartwright, narrated by Aiden Snow. Chapter 1. Which floor? 12, thanks. Emma exhaled her relief. The gentleman in the elevator had patiently held the door open while she hurried across the lobby of the New Orleans office building. She'd been at lunch too long. The quarterly gathering with her college girlfriends had been too scandalous and delicious to leave. As the waiter had brought a second glass of wine for each of them, they'd shared stories of their sex lives, the thrills and droughts, and now she was in danger of running late for a meeting with a client. The man pushed the button for the 12th floor, and then 15, presumably his, as the compartment closed. "How's the book?"
This?
Self-consciously, she moved the best-selling paperback behind her.
I just borrowed it from a friend.
Borrowed it? Pried it from Kathleen's unwilling fingers was more like it. Everywhere Emma went, people were talking about the novel, and after some of her friends' confessions over lunch, Emma had been desperate to read it. Though she had a couple of friends who were into BDSM, she knew little about it. What she did know intrigued her. But where would she find a man into that kind of kink? Her last boyfriend, Aaron, had called her a freak when she'd bought a couple of scarves and asked him to tie her up with them. Later, she found out that was only the beginning of their problems. "Do you know anything about that novel?" She took a second look at the man next to her. He was taller than her by at least a couple of inches, and that said something. In heels, she wasn't used to looking up at many people. He appeared to be in his mid-30s, and his thick, dark hair had a hint of gray at the temples, which added to his dangerous and distinguished good looks. Even though she knew she was staring, she couldn't look away. His eyes were a startling shade of green, dark and intense. She had an odd feminine sense that he saw through her tough exterior into her innermost secrets. "So, do you?" Stalling for time, she pretended to misunderstand.
Do I what?
"Do you know anything about the book?" He captured her gaze. Instinct told her to look away, but she couldn't. Unnerved, she tightened her grip on her purse strap.
It's hard not to. It's being talked about everywhere.
Realizing she was in danger of babbling, something she did not do, she changed the direction of the conversation.
"Have you read it?"
"I haven't read it, no. There's no need."
"No need?"
His scent seemed to brand the air, something crisp and outdoorsy, a stamp of primal male power and intrigue. He reached inside his suit jacket. Emma made a decent living as a financial advisor, and she recognized quality. The suit that had been exquisitely tailored to fit his toned body cost at least a month of her salary. "I live the lifestyle."
"The lifestyle? Meaning?"
A bell dinged, indicating that she'd reached her floor. "I'm a dominant." He extracted his wallet, then offered her his business card. "Look me up if you're curious." Without looking at it, she accepted his offering and tucked it into her purse. The doors slid open. As if hypnotized, she remained rooted in place. Because she hadn't moved, he reached out to press a button to prevent the car from closing. As he did, a wink of gold flashed from his cufflink. What kind of man still wore those to work? "I look forward to hearing from you, Miss..." Automatically, maybe foolishly, she provided it. "Monroe. Emma Monroe." He smiled, and something warm passed through her. Very soon. This man, tall and broad, had an air of easy command, as if he was accustomed to issuing orders and having others obey. She had an insane urge to treat him with respect he'd yet to earn. Her entire body warmed beneath his attention. He stepped aside, and she exited the elevator. Wondering what had happened, Emma just stood there.
"Oh, my Lord. You were on the elevator with Philip Dettmer? Hello? Earth to Emma?"
She looked at Lori, the firm's receptionist. Lori had been with Larson Financial almost as long as Emma had been.
"That was Philip Dettmer?"
Though it was fruitless, she looked over her shoulder.
"Yeah, the one, the only,"
Lori sighed.
"The unbearably sexy."
Emma knew his name. Who in Louisiana didn't? He was legendary when it came to buying businesses, whether or not they wanted to be bought. He owned stakes in the local football team and was rumored to be a billionaire. From his air of confidence, she certainly believed it. Of course she knew the name, but she didn't follow the local media enough to have recognized him. Lori was making an elaborate show of fanning herself with a file folder.
"Every time I see him, he makes me want to do things that are immoral."
Tingles still raced through Emma's body.
"Does he come here often?" "He has a business associate in this building, Gavin McLeod."
Another name she recognized.
"Anyway, you know Marjorie who works in the lobby? She sends a text to a few of us when Mr. Dettmer walks in. I do my best to catch a glimpse of him. Maybe I should just start riding the elevator when she messages me." "He saw my book."
Emma held up the paperback.
"Whoa. Seriously? And, he asked if I'd read it." "Holy shit! You talked about sex with Philip Dettmer?"
The manila folder swished to the floor.
"Get out!" "Not about sex exactly. Just about kink?"
She didn't tell Lori that he'd passed along his business card and invited her to look him up.
"I'd get naked and do the nasty with him in under a second. The jealousy monster has colored me green."
The phone rang, and Lori moved to answer it, chirping a professional greeting, even though she gave Emma a wide smile and a big thumbs up. Emma continued to her office and shut the door. For a moment, she leaned her shoulders against the wood. Her heart was racing, and she couldn't seem to banish the scent of him. Good God, she had this kind of reaction, and he hadn't even touched her. She took a deep breath, then smoothed her skirt as she walked to her desk to hide the book. As she closed it in a drawer, she told herself to focus. Her client was due to arrive in less than 5 minutes. Her voicemail notification was blinking madly, and she still had investments to research before going home. She didn't have time to think about Philip Dettmer, or having him do delicious, naughty things to her. Despite her determination, she struggled to keep thoughts of their interaction at bay. Her concentration repeatedly wandered off, and as a result, she had to stay at the office longer than anticipated to finish her projects. Once she arrived home, she kicked off her pumps, then changed into leggings and an oversized t-shirt bearing a map of the French Quarter. After grabbing a glass of wine, she hurried into her office to power up her computer to learn everything she could about Philip Dettmer. Page after page of information appeared, covering everything from his business dealings to his charitable endeavors. But then she couldn't resist opening Scandalous, her favorite online gossip magazine, to read stories about his failed marriage. His ex, Anna Lively, had made a number of vague but awful allegations of marital misconduct. She'd never given any details, saying a gag order prevented her from discussing the proceedings. But she'd painted her husband as the villain among villains. For the next year or so, there were no mentions of Philip. But then articles about him began to pop up, along with rumors of romances, a few of them with actresses or models, and even an heiress. Emma leaned forward to study the dates on his recent pictures. Since his divorce, it seemed as if none of his relationships had lasted more than a single date. He looked heart-stoppingly hot in a tuxedo on the red carpet. He was fuck-me gorgeous in jeans and a brown leather bomber jacket. And oh God, the one of him emerging from the Caribbean blue surf. As she'd already guessed, Philip Dettmer worked out. The picture was grainy, probably a scandalous paparazzi shot, but she noticed a small amount of tantalizing chest hair that arrowed downward, disappearing into the waistband of his swim trunks.
And he wants me to contact him?
Dare she? She shook her head.
What's wrong with me?
She shouldn't be contemplating a hookup with a billionaire. A hookup, more like a scene where he tied her up and spanked her. He was out of her league, and she knew next to nothing about the kinky lifestyle he professed to live. Before she could change her mind, she closed her web browser and powered down the computer. With a sigh, she returned to the living room to pick up the paperback before heading to the master bathroom to turn on the bathwater. Tonight, a shower wouldn't do. She needed a long, leisurely soak with bubbles, wine, and her book. An hour later, she'd read 100 scorching pages that had left her feeling restless. She'd finished the glass of wine, and she'd reheated the bathwater twice. Emma slammed the book closed, dropped it on the floor, leaned back against the bath pillow, and closed her eyes. Part of her wished she'd never started down this path. Until now, every one of her sexual experiences had been ho-hum and boring. Her last relationship had ended more than 6 months ago, and clearly the drought was getting to her. How else could she explain the fact she was fantasizing about Philip Dettmer tying her hands behind her back and bending her over the bed? He'd use one of the scarves she'd bought, or maybe handcuffs. He'd tell her in detail what he was going to do to her before slapping her ass hard. She opened her eyes. It was almost as if she could feel the pressure of his open-handed strike on her buttocks. What the hell was going on? Emma had always been practical and realistic, never given to flights of fancy. She'd studied hard, graduated with honors, and secured a great job. But now? She climbed from the tub and wrapped herself in a fluffy towel. Maybe it was because she'd read the book, or from the risque lunch conversation. But she was more turned on than she remembered being. She grabbed a vibrator from the nightstand drawer and lay down on the bed. After turning on the switch, Emma parted her thighs and placed the egg-shaped toy against her pussy. She finally admitted the truth to herself. Her arousal wasn't from the novel or from the discussion with her friends. It was the chance meeting with Mr. Dettmer. The scent of him, combined with his aura of authority and bold words, had made it impossible for her to have a single rational thought. The vibrator's humming, pulsing sensation pushed her to the edge. Even though she dug her heels into the mattress and continued to move the egg against her swollen clit, the orgasm loomed out of reach. Frustrated, she turned the toy to its highest setting and pinched her right nipple. The pain was exquisite. Would Mr. Dettmer do the same if she scened with him? Or would he use clamps on her? In her fantasy, he tormented her ruthlessly, showing no mercy even though she begged for it. Would he be like the hero in the book, using bondage gear to tie her up while he ripped orgasm after orgasm from her poor body? In her fevered imagination, she submitted to him. Emma had no idea what that really meant, but she wanted to find out. She wanted to kneel for him, to follow his orders, to get rid of her inhibitions with a man who wasn't afraid of her sexuality. For her, that was what it was really about. Even when she was in a committed relationship, her sex drive was never satiated. Her pussy got wetter and wetter as she imagined Philip Dettmer's hands on her body. His touch wouldn't be gentle, but it would be what she needed.
Enough to actually call him?
Before today, she might have said no. But the lunch with her friends had been liberating. Talking about the book had allowed Emma and her friends to share their innermost desires. One of her best friends, Shelby, was in a lifestyle BDSM relationship with her fiancé, Trevor. According to Shelby, he'd helped her get past her awful hang-ups about commitment, and she seemed even more confident now than she ever had. Emma knew her friend occasionally visited a club in the French Quarter with Trevor. The idea of being with a dominant in public made Emma tighten her grip on her nipple. As she squirmed, she pictured Mr. Dettmer slapping her pussy hard. The combination of her thoughts and the slight pain was enough to make her cry out. Then she imagined him naked, his cock erect, digging his hand into her hair before forcing that big dick inside her needy pussy. The thought of him relentlessly fucking her pushed her to the edge. Wave after wave assailed her. She'd never had an orgasm this sustained. Shockwaves of sensation flooded her pussy. This was what she'd always wanted, dreamed of. Soon the intensity from the vibrator became too much and she dropped it, leaving it humming on the mattress while she drank in gulps of air. It took a full minute for her to breathe normally again. Finally, she sat up and switched off the small egg. Her legs were wobbly as she stood to pull on a nightshirt. The climax had been good, and yet the odd restlessness persisted. She usually fell asleep after an orgasm, but tonight she tossed and turned as scenes from the book teased her. In her imagination, she was the heroine of the story, and Philip Dettmer tied her, spanked her, tormented and clamped her. He administered the pain she craved until she screamed her pleasure and begged for the relief that he repeatedly denied her. It was well after midnight when she drifted off, and she was awake again before her alarm clock rang. Her heart beat quickly and her blood hummed as if she'd already had a pot of coffee. Sometime during the night, she'd reached a decision to get in contact with Mr. Dettmer. She wanted the experience he offered, at least once. He might be disappointed in her, but she'd have the memory to last a lifetime. Before she could change her mind, she grabbed his business card from her purse, then picked up her phone. Needing fortification before taking the leap, she shuffled into the kitchen and made a cup of coffee from her single-cup brewer. After a long sip, she opened her email program and typed in his name. For minutes, she struggled with what to write before settling on something mundane.
It's Emma Monroe. I met you in the elevator yesterday.
I'm curious. Her hand shook as she hit send. Over the next hour, as she got ready for work, she agonized, alternately wishing she'd never sent the email and obsessively checking for a response. Emma was on the way out of the door when her cell phone signaled an incoming email. Curiosity wouldn't allow her to leave it unread. What if it was from him? She juggled her to-go cup of coffee, her purse, and her tote onto the hallway table. Her heart momentarily stopped, then raced on madly when she saw he'd answered. Call me. He'd offered a phone number, and nothing else. Emma collapsed against the wall and stared at the screen. After much internal debate, she took a deep breath and touched the number. The phone gave her the option to confirm her choice. This time, she didn't hesitate. Her mind was made up. She wanted to be with a man, at least once, who didn't think her sexual desires were abnormal. The first ring hadn't even finished when he answered. Dettmer. Oh, God. She'd forgotten how rich his voice was, how compelling. With a single word, he'd made her damp.
Hello?
She paused, uncertain how to address him. Sir, Philip, Mr. Dettmer. He waited. Even through the phone lines, she sensed his patience.
It's Emma Monroe.
She hesitated. This was more difficult than she'd imagined.
We met yesterday in the elevator.
How's the book?
It's,
Did you masturbate last night? Her knees weakened.
You don't waste time on small talk, do you?
Do you want me to? Awkwardly, she laughed.
It might make it a bit easier.
Is that what you really want, Emma? For me to make things easier for you? Or do you want to confess to me that you played with yourself last night while you thought about me and what I might do to you if you begged prettily enough? His words, a whispered sexy purr, made her gasp. Before she could formulate an answer, he went on. How many times did you come, Emma? The dialogue in the novel had been one of the things that had turned her on most, but now that Philip Dettmer, the Philip Dettmer, was being so blunt, she found herself flustered.
Just once, she said.
Did you use a toy, or just your hand?
A toy.
The word sir was on the tip of her tongue, and she almost used it. She'd never had that kind of inclination with any man before, but then she'd never met a man this powerful, this direct. Tell me more. Where were you? What were you thinking of? Thank God she hadn't returned his call from the office.
Last night I took a bath. She hesitated, but he didn't fill the silence.
She sensed he'd wait her out, no matter how long it took. Nervously, she continued.
I had a glass of wine, and I read for about an hour in the tub. You know, the book I had in the elevator.
Again, he said nothing.
Then I went to bed with my vibrator.
Continue. With her free hand, she pushed hair back from her face.
I was thinking about scenes I'd just read, but my imagination took over.
Admitting all this was embarrassing. Part of her wondered what she was doing. Emma reminded herself that she'd sought him out.
I was tied up.
Before courage completely deserted her, she went on.
I imagined a sharp slap between my legs.
On your pussy?
Yes.
If that's what you mean, then say it. No man had ever demanded she use dirty language. It was unnerving, liberating.
I imagined being slapped on my pussy.
Ah, was that when you came? She whispered her confession.
Yes.
Has that ever been done to you?
No, never.
Is it merely a fantasy? Or would you like to have your pussy spanked, Emma? Oh, God, she could barely breathe. The tone of his voice, seductive and firm, sent a bolt of electricity through her body. Answer the question.
Yes.
Speak a little louder, please. This man would never let her hide. It took all her courage to be honest with him.
Yes,
she cleared her throat.
I would like that.
Good girl. His words were a purr of approval, making her heart race. How much experience do you have with BDSM?
Actually, to tell the truth, none. And when I suggested it to my boyfriend...
Current or prior?
Oh, prior.
She was flustered and a little offended.
I'm not a cheater, Mr. Dettmer.
Glad to hear. Please go on. The fact that they were on the phone made this discussion easier.
Anyway, Aaron called me a freak, and he used that as an excuse to start dating another woman, someone who was less demanding.
While he was seeing you? It had been worse than that.
I was living with him.
Admitting this brought back the pain as well as the humiliation.
We'd been looking at rings, talking about having babies. Anyway, he said no self-respecting man would want to be married to a woman who had those kind of perversions.
He was a fool, Emma. Complete and total. Everything you want and more is perfectly normal. If you want my opinion... She was curious.
Yes.
Aaron was a coward who had likely checked out of the relationship long before this. Couples who are committed to one another work out the issues that they have by talking about them, not by walking away. She nodded, even though he couldn't see her. You're as beautiful as you are bold. Any man would be lucky to claim you as his. Something was wrong with him, Emma, not you. I promise you that. His reassurance chased goosebumps up her arms. And let me tell you this. Plenty of women love having their pussies spanked. That husky growl of sexiness was back in his voice. And frankly, I enjoy doing it. He waited a moment, allowing the time to stretch while her pulse rocketed into overdrive. If you'd like to have your gorgeous little cunt tormented by me, all you have to do is ask. Her knees wobbled, and terror tightened her vocal cords. With that seemingly infinite patience, he waited. Finally, she cleared her throat. Hoping she was using the correct words, she asked,
"Will you please spank my pussy?"
"I'd be honored to. As hard as you want." "When?" She almost repeated the question before realizing how inane that would sound.
"Whenever you're available."
"We have a few options. You can come to my home, we can go to my club, or I can come to you." Emma hadn't thought through the practicalities. If she went to him, she had the option of leaving if things spiraled out of control. At her place, she would feel more secure. She wasn't sure about the idea of playing in public, but that was probably the safest option, at least until she knew him better.
Maybe a club would be best.
Absently, she wondered if it was the same one that Shelby went to. If so, maybe she knew Mr. Dettmer. "Agreed. I'll be traveling extensively in the next 10 days. How about we meet 2 weeks from now? Are Tuesdays good for you?" She wasn't sure if the time was too long or far, far too short for her to work up the nerve to go through with this. "Emma?" Determinedly, she shook herself out of her reverie.
"That will be fine, Mr. Dettmer."
"My club is in the French Quarter." Parking was notoriously difficult there, and she didn't like to go alone. "I'm happy to send a car, so you don't have to worry about a thing." There were constant reminders of who she was dealing with. She was pretty sure he didn't mean he'd send a taxi or ride-share service. "I will always ensure your safety and comfort, Emma."
"Thank you. That would be nice."
"Wear a skirt and heels. Your shirt should be buttoned down. I'll leave the choice of undergarments up to you. If things go the way I hope, they won't stay on long. In the meantime, I'll be in touch with a list of reading materials. Of course, I'll be available to answer any questions." He paused. "I look forward to getting to know you much, much better. By the time I'm done with you, you'll have no secrets to hide." Her hand was shaking as he ended the call. She pressed the device nervously against her chest.
What have I agreed to?
Chapter 2. My God, Emma, you're so very stunning when you suffer for me. Although he was in San Francisco and they hadn't yet played together in person, Philip Dettmer's approval slid through her, feeding her determination. She could do this. Right now they were connecting via video conference call, and she was lying naked on her back with her legs spread and her nipples clamped with terrible Japanese clovers. Now, place the chain between your teeth, which would make the pressure even more unbearable. Why had she admitted she wanted to play with these little monsters to begin with? Ever since that fateful elevator ride more than a week ago, he'd stayed in contact with her. In addition to calling her each evening, he sent her articles to read, and he'd even sent her a few BDSM instruction manuals. Additionally, he'd recommended she join an online group where she could network with other submissives and learn more about the lifestyle. After a few conversations, he'd begun to give her instructions. The first and most important one was the most difficult: not to orgasm without permission. Last weekend, he'd had fancy Bond's electronic equipment, a camera, new computer, monitor, microphone, delivered and set up, and it hadn't taken her long to realize that he enjoyed watching her play with herself. "You're hesitating," she sighed. Because of the way the camera and computer monitor were positioned, she couldn't see him, but he could see every part of her exposed body. "Emma?" His voice was both calm and patient, as she'd come to expect.
"It will hurt."
"I imagine it will." Humor laced his words. "By not doing as you're told, you're adding more time to the clock." Her nipples were already a little sore, but she knew he wouldn't relent, nor did she want him to. They talked every day and he wanted to know everything about her. He'd shared plenty in return, including the fact his divorce...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?